Hello everyone, my name is Jacqueline Coley. I'm the awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes, and it is my honor to welcome the filmmakers and cast of the beautiful film you just watched, CODA. So please help me welcome them all to the stage. Everybody has a name tag, which is the best part of this. Yes. I do apologize. Eugenio and Troy and Amelia, unfortunately, were called away and couldn't make it this evening. But we do have most of the folks with us here today. And also, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping for everyone. Really appreciate all of you being here, but we want to make sure these folks are able to have a great time next weekend, so please don't come up and say hi at the end of this. If you guys could just hold, because we're trying to keep everybody 6 feet in this last bit of push, because I want to see what all of y'all look like on the red carpet. It's going to be fab. Patrick, I'm going to start with you, because although Sean could not be here with us tonight, I'm sure she is still aglow from her freshly minted BAFTA win, which we all are just like so excited about.
And so she deserves it so well, so much.
I loved her speech, seeing it signed in both British Sign Language and then also in American Sign Language. It was just such a moment. But the best part of it, on top of all the accolades and the fact that folks are still loving this movie almost 18 months later after its Sundance debut, you're doing another project with her already.
Yes.
Tell us about it, because I think that's a testament.
When she finished working on CODA, we might basically start really working on the screenplay, yes. We hope to be ready to go this year. It was such an amazing experience for the three of us to work with her that I got the lucky one to be closer geographically and convince her to do the next one.
Well, talk a little bit about that, because the one thing I will say, I've gotten to get to know the cast a little bit through the course of this season, and everyone talks about the tone and atmosphere that she set on set being so welcoming, so inclusive, and one of the big reasons why the sort of happy, I would say, joyous aspect of the film was birthed on that set. So talk about what you saw on that set and why you wanted to keep repeating it.
Well, I think to talk about what happened on the set, I think you should really ask the actors.
Yeah, that's true.
But she has such an incredible energy, and she puts so much heart on this movie that it's so communicative to everyone involved.
Well, you're perfect. You can come and have my job, because my follow-up would be to Marlee to say that as well, because again, it's a story I like hearing, is just how much fun. 35 years after she won an Oscar, folks, she's saying that the set was one of the most fun experiences because of the tone that Sean set, and I love that story.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, by the way. Thank you. Yes, 35 years of working in the entertainment business, making various appearances and working with various people, with lots of directors and writers and sets. Pretty much the same overall, and that's how it goes. And yet, the energy when I first stepped foot on CODA was almost like culture shock for me, because I was expecting more of something like what I've been used to when I am just the only person there with my interpreter, and everybody else is hearing. No one is signing. I'm really not in my element. I'm not talking about as an actor. I'm just talking about the set itself, the workplace. Whereas on CODA, there were 3 actors who were deaf. Everyone was signing. There was interpreters left and right. There were CODAs in the crew. There was a director of ASL, 2 directors of ASL who could sign. Everyone signed left and right. And I was in my element. And Sean was the one who created it. She made it so accessible. She made sure that we got the same treatment as everyone else. She made sure that, she treated us as actors should be treated, just equal. And it was absolutely fun, because I was able to use my language to communicate with my co-stars, as well as the director who learned to sign, as well as Amelia, who learned to sign and played our daughter, played Ruby. It was just a family. Immediately, it was a family. But with work at the end of the day that was very hard, very challenging, and we just did it just like anybody else who loves their craft.
I love that. And also, surprise.
Troy is here.
Yes!
Yes, I am. I agree with what Marlee said. It was really hard to get through. Love it.
No, I'm so glad you could join us. I didn't, wait 1 second. I'm so glad you could join us. I wanted to make sure that you were included in this, but I told you you weren't be here, and so I'm very pleased to see that you popped up like this fairy to come and bless us.
Well, really, we just landed from BAFTA.
I know.
So it was just a really crazy schedule. So I'm here. Thank you all so much for being here today and having us. Really appreciate you.
And let's give a round of applause to his fresh BAFTA win, along with his Critics' Choice win. Let's give it up. That is such a great moment. And he just flew in.
It was an awesome night. I mean, it was hitting two birds with one stone, like I said.
Ah, I love it. Fabrice, I want to talk with you to just take it back just a little bit before we sort of dive more deep into the film, to the inception, which we haven't talked about a lot. I haven't gotten to speak to you yet, which I love to hear the journey of where the book came from, because on top of the fact that it's getting all these accolades, the adaptation, I've gotten the book now, they sent it to me, and I think it's just so beautiful how you took all of the best elements from that story and really just let them flourish. So talk about how you guys decided to first start making it a feature.
I mean, it started with the French movie, obviously, almost 10 years ago. It started with Victoria Bedos, who wrote the script, was at the beginning of the whole story. You know, the French movie has been a huge success in France. Then we sold the distribution rights and the remake rights to Lionsgate, we were attached to the project as producers, and we've been developing the project with Patrick, who was there at Lionsgate, co-chairman of Lionsgate. When he left the studio, he left with the project. He was attached to the project, the Lionsgate didn't exercise the option, so we got the rights back, bought the script to the studio, and we did it together.
I really love that aspect of it too, because I did know that it had the French film, but I haven't gotten the chance to see it. I don't think that my streaming access has been great enough yet. But it was such a beautiful story from its inception, but bringing it over to an American audience, talk a little bit about those first conversations that you both had about, you know, switching it up and bringing it over here, and what you wanted to keep from that version, things you wanted to bring anew, and then also hiring Sean.
Should I talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the funny thing about the French movie, although we acquired the rights because they're really great negotiators, the French movie was never released.
It was never released.
Never released in the United States, never. So, but you know, we showed the movie to a bunch of writers who really all loved the movie, all loved the movie, and then Sean came for a pitch meeting, and I remember that very well. Philippe was on the phone from Paris, and the pitch was so great. And we had actually 3 finalists, and then we said, you know, she's so great. Don't need to see the other people. Oh, but you can't. They come and we have an appointment. You know, they're coming to pitch this afternoon. Well, can we cancel that? No, you can't. But but we are going to go with Sean, and we did. And she basically wrote something which was quite magical, and there was. And then we decided, the 3 of us, we're gonna go and do it together.
Go ahead,
but if I may add something, you know, it's in a way it is such a universal story, you know, from the beginning, and it's such a story about family and love that it could have been, or it could be done in any language, because it's a story that is so beautifully told from, you know, the heart, that you asked the question earlier, why a remake? It was just so obvious for us that this story also had to be told, you know, here in America or for the rest of the world, because it's a very unique story and yet very simple and beautiful. So we really wanted to expand, in a way, that story and make sure that we were to present it to the world. In fact, that's where it came from, you know, from the beginning.
I would like to add something to what Philippe just said. He's totally right. But I think my point of view about doing remakes is that if you don't elevate, if you don't try to do something different and better, just don't do it. If it's just to do a copycat of a foreign movie, just don't do it. If you can elevate, and I think this is the case with CODA, thanks to Sean and this incredible cast that we have, that's basically why the movie is so good.
I love that.
And Patrick is right, because I should add that I didn't have the chance to see the French film, but I understood what you just said was perfect. You're right. I agree the fact that making this in the United States, because the story is more, you know, yes, you can talk about a family the way it does, but adding the element of authentic deaf actors creates an entirely different film. Using American Sign Language adds an entirely different element to the film.
I'd like to chime in if I could. This is Troy. So it's quite interesting. As I was observing what our wonderful producers were commenting on, I'd like to ask all of you to imagine just throwing the movie business out the window, all that shit, right? And think about engineering a film. I mean, think about the engineering of a car. And so back in the 1930s and the 1940s, we had these T-model Fords that you had to crank by hand, right? And now, of course, with technology, we've made all these improvements, and today's cars are just these smooth running machines. And so I'm thinking about the adaptation of La Famille Bélier and really bring it in and plant a new seed and create a new experience. And that new experience can blossom. And there's always room to improve that can lead to today's story, which is CODA, which is truly, truly amazing. And it's been an amazing journey. And how attitudes are beginning to shift and transform, and the selection and the casting of authenticity and all of that infighting that led to this authenticity was so important to lead us to this point. Really, there was folks out there who, you know, there was hearing people that had a big heart, put faith in us deaf actors, and made this happen. And so it's so amazing to be sitting here next to my castmates.
And trusting, the trust that these producers put in us, we're so grateful to them for putting trust in us.
I love that.
Cheers to that.
I have to say, I want to add real quick with Daniel, because I remembered. I was like saying backstage, I was like, well, what have y'all won since I've last seen you? It's only been 2 weeks, folks, and it was the SAG Ensemble and the BAFTAs. And so congratulations on your newly minted SAG Ensemble award, Daniel. But I also want to talk, too, about this experience in general, because I think it does have to be a watershed moment to see the representation. But when we were speaking last, you've noticed just how quickly Hollywood is trying to catch up to this moment. Like at the Oscars luncheon, they had subtitles burned into the presentation, and they had somebody like there. It was just so, I think it's interesting to see how quickly people are getting there.
Yes, definitely, big time. I mean, I remember when I first started acting growing up, I was young, and I was in a small town, Duluth, Minnesota, and I saw Marlee in Hollywood, and she won the Oscar, and I didn't see any other deaf people show up. I saw many different movies, and I was fascinated. They could have deaf characters in them. It would work, but I never saw them. And now they're starting to show up. And I'm happy that the writers are having open minds. I mean, all of you really, Hollywood. And there's a superhero, there's a deaf superhero in Marvel. So that shows the world's changing. And really the way I look at it, all of us as deaf actors, no matter who we are, we have so many stories to tell. It's such an untapped thing. And CODA is such a beautiful story. It's our first one. And it's a great way to show both the hearing world and the deaf world. And we did it with authentic deaf actors. And it was just a family story. So I look forward to seeing more and more deaf actors and opportunities in the future.
Yes, believe it or not, there's many hearing people that don't know that deaf people can have sex.
Wait a minute. Thank you for mentioning this.
Awesome.
I'm not kidding. Not kidding.
I like to use Tinder.
Well, that was the part of the film I found to be the most, I would say, powerful, was y'all's romance and your chemistry, and just that aspect being completely the new ways that deaf parents can embarrass their kids. It's like a different formula than the normal parent.
I'm a mother of 4, so I've embarrassed them. Well, I know I'll go there, but I'm not going to go there. So anyway, I'll stop. I'll put my foot in my mouth. But anyway.
And the thing I would say that made it resonant the most is because what I really noticed watching the film again recently is how much deaf actors are so innately visual, and how much it just so improves movie making. And the best part of that was when you two are turning to the doctor and in unison just are like, I can't do that. That sort of like tag team visual, physical acting. Talk about you guys setting up that scene, because it's a funny scene, but it's also so great.
We are just damn fine actors.
I know you are. I know you are. I know you are. But I want to talk about that. It's such a comedic, funny, everything is there.
Actually, we're very compatible as actors. I really am very lucky that we are all able to work together well. The fact, I mean, that's of course important. We have good rapport. We understand each other as artists. We know what we're dealing with in terms of the goals we want to establish as characters, as people who see us as actors on screen, and whether we're talking about comedy or drama. But you know, we're also incorporating aspects of deaf culture because, again, you've never seen deaf culture, perhaps, like you have in this movie. That's why it's so exciting. That's why it's so new. That's why we're making noise. That's why this movie is for everyone, because it operates on so many levels, and you can identify not just deaf culture, but music and teen life and fishing and whatever it may take. But in this particular scene, it was hilarious. If you hadn't been on the set, you would have seen that I was having so much fun, but at the same time, I was trying to figure out how we could establish and not go over the top and not underplay it. So we had a lot of takes for Sean to choose from. And this guy over here is one hell of a funny guy. I mean, he's the king of improvisation. And so I tip my hat to him.
Yes, definitely. While we were shooting with the two of them, there's one scene, I wasn't there in the scene, but I came on set because I enjoy watching them work. They are so wonderful. They have such a great connection. Their characters are different. I know both of them as people, and their characters are so different. And we were just laughing together when he was doing his signing, and he did different takes, and it was just hilarious.
Same. When Marlee was incredibly fun to work with, and when we were improvising and feeding off each other's energy, I was ready to play along with her, and she was ready to play along with me. And so we really fed off that energy and that improvisation, and we had that mutual trust, and we felt so comfortable working together. It was a mutual understanding.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to their chemistry too, because that definitely is the headline. So many folks talk about it in the film and praise it, rightly so. But Daniel, you and Amelia, that scene by the water where you guys have the argument is probably one of my favorite moments of like honest, sisterly, brotherly conversation. And you both just kill it in that scene. And my favorite, love so many lines in the movie, but our family was fine before you came along. I live for that one. Talk about that. And then, yeah, you and Amelia building that brother-sister bond, because I swear to you, if you just put this on a counter, I would swear y'all were the family that the film made you believe us to be.
Well, it starts with my character, Leo. We have so many similarities Leo and Daniel are the same. We've both grown up on small towns. Leo's a strong, deaf, proud guy. He's very enthusiastic for his business. He doesn't want to fail. All his failures become lessons, and he just continues working. And he loves his family. When he's on the beach, my parents, Leo's parents kept on depending on Ruby. And Leo is strong, and he went to the bar. He went to the bar by himself because he wanted to be with the hearing people, and he wanted to connect with the other fishermen. So it was showing Leo's perspective. And when he's looking around, he doesn't know what they're talking about, and they laugh, he tries to laugh, and really, that's my life every day. When I lived in that small town, I don't understand what anyone says. And again, Ruby, his younger sister, I'm the older son, so why are they depending on Ruby? And when Leo sees that, it makes him so frustrated. So when he's sitting at the beach, he was trying to hide. He was frustrated. And when Ruby came, Leo finally let her have it. He told her everything. He told her she needed to go. She needs to be a hearing person. She doesn't need to be responsible for her deaf family. It's obvious that we're fine. Before you were born, we were fine. Until you came, then things changed, and the family had to depend on you. Ever since you were gone, you have to go. You need to go, enjoy yourself, have a childhood, instead of being stuck with us, fishing. So I told her, you have to go. You're a singer. That's your gift. Because again, Leo, he loves his family and he loves Ruby, number one. And really, that's why we're here. We have that love.
And if I may chime in again, my theory is that Leo wants to let Ruby go so he can have a girlfriend.
I think he's doing it. In both cases.
Is that right?
In both cases, I believe that he will be doing just fine with or without Ruby's help. I don't think even Tinder needs to help him out with that. I saw him in that velvet, ladies and gentlemen, at the Saks. He was doing just fine. Anyway, before we get out of here, we don't have that much time, but I did want to talk about this because I was there nominations morning, and obviously every nomination for CODA was a cheer moment, but Best Picture really had me very excited for so many reasons, but especially because it was going to be honored amongst the idea of having this film with this cast be up for the highest honor. And so I will just maybe start with you, Patrick, about why you feel this movie has resonated so much, not just with, I think, the critical community, but with the general population, because it is the first movie I tell people when they say, what do you want to watch next? And I'm like, you need to watch this one. And it's sort of had this viral infection throughout the film and the regular world. Maybe what you could sort of tell to folks.
Well, I think it's a very positive movie, as you know.
It's because he's a good producer. He's a great producer, that's why.
I think it's a very positive message about family and diversity, and there's no violence. We've been going through 2 stressing years, all of us, and this is such a positive message of good.
And if I may add something also, I think I don't know any parents that have not had to deal with letting go of their children. It's always, for any parent, it's a very challenging moment. Same thing for the teenagers. It's a very challenging moment to leave the home, and so I think it resonates with everyone, every parent and every kid. It's a real family-driven movie, and I think that's why it touches everyone.
Yeah, it had me calling my mom, and I'm sure some of the folks here as well. So I want to thank you all.
And I'm not saying that because we all have kids about to leave our home.
I was just going to say, how close is this hitting to home
Maybe we're
right
a bit
now?
sensitive to that.
No, I definitely feel that. I want to thank you all for this evening. I want to thank you all for listening. And remind all of you that CODA is up for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, and Troy is up for Best Supporting Actor. Thank you all.